Hey guys, and welcome to another edition of Dan Reviews It. This one is the April 2017 wrap up. We're going to talk about a few movies that came out in the month of April that I didn't get to do videos on yet. Quick recap of the ones I did do videos of. You had Gifted and Born in China, which were both B pluses, really good movies. Disney Nature did Born in China with John Krasinski doing the narration. Gifted, very good drama, solid emotional stuff, and funny at times as well, about a genius little girl. And Fate of the Furious has a video up as well that you can check out on the channel. Gave that one a C plus, definitely a little bit of a diminishing return for the series. So we're going to cover not everything I saw in April. A few of the movies I saw earlier on in the month are just simply not really around anymore, so I might cover those when they come to DVD, but we'll cover, some of the movies that you could still catch in theaters right now. So we'll kick it off with The Zookeeper's Wife, and this is a World War II drama taking place in Poland in the late 30s. I think as well it goes into the early 40s. It takes place over a couple of years, but it is the Zabinski family, a husband and wife, that own a zoo that gets shut down in Poland and taken over by Nazis, and they take it upon themselves to hide a bunch of people, a lot of children, but some adults too, that are Jewish, that are trying to they're trying to spare their lives from the Holocaust. So it's Jessica Chastain, plays the matriarch here of the family and really the star of the film, and Daniel Bruhl plays the head of that region, I guess, of the Nazi Party. So it's a good movie. It's definitely not on par with some of the classics that you think of, like Schindler's List, but it is better than some I've seen. I liked it more than The Book Thief, for example. But Jessica Chastain, I mean, she just knocks it out of the park again. This time, she's got a very thick accent, which we are not quite used to hearing from her, and she pulls it off very well. She's got some really heavy emotional scenes, as you would imagine with a movie like this, and she just kills it. She is one of my favorite up-and-coming actresses, always doing a great job, and she does it here as well. Daniel Bruhl does a good job in his own right. He holds his own in some scenes with her. One of my issues with the film, though, is, first of all, it's a bit long. It's, a little bit over 2 hours, and a good part of it is repetitive, because a lot of it is her and her husband, taking the kids and bringing them into the house and getting them acclimated and all that. So there is a sense of sort of, repetition that comes with the film. But in addition to that, I think some of the emotional heft of a topic like this isn't necessarily always felt. It's got definitely some emotional, notes that are hit correctly, especially with the acting, but I think, script-wise, it just doesn't necessarily hold together as well as it could have with the material. But, it's based on a true story, so it's certainly interesting to find out about these people that really, are heroes of World War II. I mean, they really saved hundreds of lives, and, so that is great to see. The relationship between them and their son is, not the best really either. They could have explored that a little bit more, explored possibly his involvement or his, I guess, relationship with the fugitives. I would have liked to see more of that, but overall I thought it was pretty good, and like I said, is it on par with a Schindler's List or certain other movies that come to mind when you think of World War II Nazi dramas? No, but bolstered by the acting, certainly above everything else, and it is a pretty cool story. It's fascinating that they pulled this off. So I give The Zookeeper's Wife a B minus. Up next is Going in Style. This is a remake of a comedy I've never seen, but I should check out because it's George Burns is in it, and Art Carney, two people I like from the late '70s, and it's basically about three elderly gentlemen who decide to rob a bank to get back at them for basically screwing them out of their own money, their pensions and stuff like that. So it's this time around Morgan Freeman, Alan Arkin, and Michael Caine. So first of all, I mean, can you go wrong with this with this cast? Morgan Freeman. Sometimes he does questionable movies as kind of like a B character, but when he's on, it's great, and the chemistry between these three guys is great. Alan Arkin has great comedic timing as he typically does, and Michael Caine, we've seen him a lot in, at least lately, a lot of more dramatic roles. Certainly Alfred is in the Dark Knight series comes to mind, but his roots of film, a lot of them are in comedy, and there is actually a nod to Alfie, one of his famous movies from the '60s, in this movie, which I thought was cool. Overall, I thought the movie was decent, but it lacked a lot of laughs. Like, there's some memorable scenes in it that sort of elicit, some tee-hees or some, oh, that's clever. But, I never really belly laughed in this movie. That's kind of what I was looking for from it, especially with the pedigree of the director, Zach Braff, who, has done some good work and some not so good work behind the camera. Here, I think a little more middling. But it's the actors that really keep this thing afloat. They're having a blast with the characters, and if there is humor to be wrung from this film, it's with them giving the punchlines. And something I like is, I just wrapped up watching the Golden Girls series, which I've of course seen from when I was a kid, but it had been a long time since I sat down and watched the whole thing. And something that's great about the Golden Girls is that they poke fun at each other, but they're never really, not never, but they're rarely the butt of the jokes. They're the ones telling the jokes, and that's how Going in Style is as well. The doofy bank manager, he's the butt of the joke, or the inept policemen that try to figure out what's going on. They are the butt of the jokes, but it's rarely the older actors that are the butts. They are telling the jokes. They get the one-liners. And like I said, I wish it was funnier, because these guys are certainly adept at comedy and are great actors and have a good chemistry, but I definitely wish that a little more punchlines were happening. But I had a good time in the movie. I can't say I was ever bored with it for sure. And I liked the plot. I liked what they were saying about stick it to the man. Certainly in this type of economy, you see a lot of people who are about to lose their home. Like one of the characters is in this movie where their company that was giving them their pension is getting sold off to overseas. So their pensions are going away. These are things that I'm sure, are even probably more relevant today than they were in the '70s when the film was originally made. So, plot-wise, made sense, and certainly the actors are game for it. So I leave Going in Style with a B- as well, just like Zookeeper's wife. Up next, we've got Ghost in the Shell. Now, this one did kind of come and go, not really in theaters anymore, soon to be on DVD, but I figured I'd mention it because it was such a big deal, certainly with the casting choice of Scarlett Johansson in the lead role, whereas, obviously this movie originally was from a manga and then was the anime film, so why not cast an Asian person in the role? I don't get so hung up on that kind of stuff. We see that so often in movies like this. I find it less of a problem when it's a made-up character in the first place, which this is. So, for her to be Scarlett Johansson, for me, was okay. I watched the anime for the very first time right before I saw this movie. I thought, give it some context. I never watched it in the '90s when it was out, but I did watch it a couple of days before I saw the new version. I prefer the animated version. I will say that. But the problem I have mainly with this movie is I'm not sure why the studio, I believe it's Paramount that made this film, I'm not sure why they made it. It seemed to me that it was never going to turn a profit for one reason alone. It takes so much money to make this movie look this good, and it does. It looks really good. Visually it's stunning. The effects, for the most part, are well done. But with this kind of a movie, I don't think it was ever really going to bust out from its niche audience, and so it's like, I don't know why you would make it, to be honest. It always seemed like a money loser to me, and sure enough, it didn't do very well in the box office, so it lost probably even more than they were anticipating. But is it any good? I've mentioned the visuals, absolutely fantastic visual component to this film, but it's not very memorable. I mean, I saw this movie like 3 weeks ago, and I can barely remember much about it. Scarlett Johansson did a good job, as she does, but because she's, the ghost in the shell, she's not really human, so you get a sense of like, okay, yeah, this character's not human, but even Johansson herself has played that more convincingly in other movies. Under the Skin certainly comes to mind. It's a movie that I didn't love, but hard to deny, her performance in it was good. So, she is doing, I guess, what she's supposed to be doing, but it's like, it just comes off as so hollow, and some of the action sequences were cool, for sure, and, this movie has that over the anime, absolutely, because just visually, it's just so awesome. But it's just also very generic, and like I said, I thought her performance was good, but it's like, this is a movie that is supposed to be asking questions like, how do we define being a human, and how do we define feelings, and that kind of thing, and I don't think this movie does a good job of answering those questions or even really exploring them all that much. Touches on them a little bit, and as we find out certain things about the characters, maybe we, learn some things, and okay, well, that's, a little revealing, and that sort of touches on that, but it kind of also doesn't. So, I liked it at the time an okay amount, but, thinking about it now a few weeks later, it's like I can hardly remember anything that even happened in it, that, that I don't also remember from the anime. So, and it's a bit longer, too, than the anime, by a good, like, half hour or 40 minutes. So, just from that, it's like, there's a lot of padding, and, yes, it turned into more cool visuals and more action sequences, but does that make it a better movie? I didn't think so. I leave Ghost in the Shell with a C+. Up next is Sleight, and this is a movie about, it's a drama film, a little bit of an action film, I guess, too, but it's, a drug dealer movie, starring Jacob Lattimore as this young adult who has basically doctored himself. He's a street magician and performer. His hero is Houdini. He's doctored himself so that his arm is basically magnetic, and, it helps him with his tricks, and it may also come in handy for some other things in the film. So this movie, was a little bit of a thinker for me. Kind of like Ghost in the Shell, went down a little bit the more I thought about it. This one actually improved the more I thought about it. Originally, I have to say, a lot of the acting in this movie is not good. Lattimore does a good job. He's, as the lead, he is pretty strong. He knows his character, and he also knows his character's motivations, and I liked that, but a lot of the other actors just sort of seem to just not know what they were doing, or just not be that good. He has a little sister that is just not a good actress, and the girlfriend is, like, okay. The main drug dealer that he deals with, he's a good actor. I liked him. But overall, it was the acting definitely brought it down for me. But the more I thought about this movie, I really have to say that it's pretty unique in its plot. I'm a fan of magic, and certainly street magic, close up magic. That's sort of what he does in the movie. The title, obviously play on sleight of hand, and so we see some of his magic, street performances, which is cool. I liked that, and it sort of does set it apart as a film from a lot of the other run of the mill drug dealer movies. A lot of the same beats are hit, obviously, but as we go along, and we get more and more into his issues with the drug scene, it becomes a more compelling story. The whole romance thing I didn't really care about, and I also didn't really believe it. He met this girl, and then like a week later he's like, listen, I'm in for thousands of dollars that I owe to these drug dealers. Like, what's going to happen? I don't know. And she's like, oh, I've got some money I can just give you, hundreds of dollars that I was saving, for my college. And it's like, all right, you just met this dude. Like, what is going on? So, like, I didn't really believe, certain things that happened with the characters, but, it can be forgiven a little bit for, just kind of the originality of that, that whole plot device, of, it said on the poster, Chronicle meets Iron Man. Iron Man obviously because he's got the, the electronic stuff in him, and here he's got it in his arm. Whatever, I talked about this in last month's review, and I said, the Belko experiment tagline on the poster, Office Space meets Battle Royale. Personally, I think that's, corny, and I didn't really find this to be much of a Chronicle thing, or Iron Man, really, for that matter. I think it's kind of its own thing, and I think that's cool. I think its originality is what kind of improved it the more I thought about it. And as well, Lattimore gives a good performance, like I said. The budget for this movie was not high, so it's like, are they going to get the A-listers, of actors? Not really, although certainly you could say that's been done in other movies with very low budgets, but here, he stands out as really the strong actor among some kind of subpar ones. But like I said, definitely the more you think about this movie, at least for me, the more I really liked it. So I leave Sleight with a B. And finally, we have The Circle. This is based on a popular book, and it stars Emma Watson in her full American accent, which is always terrible. And she enters into this job at a place called The Circle, which is sort of like Facebook, I guess, but like to the extreme. They know everything about what you're doing, and it's, a lot of Big Brother type stuff, I guess. So she starts out as what they call a guppy in her first few weeks, and quickly she rises in the ranks because of, certain things that she decides to reveal about herself, and she gets in good with the president, I guess, or CEO of the company, played by Tom Hanks. And then you also have Patton Oswalt as sort of the other head of the circle. And you've also got John Boyega, who plays somebody that invented something like a prototype sort of the circle that they bought from him, and he's sort of gone off the grid now for a few years, and he makes friends with Emma Watson. This movie could have been good. I didn't read the book, so I don't know if the book is any better than the movie, but there's a lot of interesting aspects to the movie that never really come together. You've got Bill Paxton in, I guess now, what is one of his last performances. He plays Emma Watson's dad, who has MS, and through the circle she gets this really great insurance plan for him. So it's like, she kind of falls into it through that and wanting to help her family, and then it turns into, she's on camera 24/7 now. She's got this, millions of followers watching her every move, and here's another one where the acting is just like not good. Like I said, her accent is just, it's terrible. It's better than it was in The Bling Ring, and maybe not as good as it was in The Perks of Being a Wallflower, but it's just not a good accent. And then her friend, who's played by, I don't know the actress's name, but she played the lead in the TV show Selfie, and she's been in some different movies. She has like this real thick Irish accent in this movie. That doesn't work either. So I don't know what the story is with all the weird accents. And then Eller Coltrane, who was the boy from Boyhood, who grew up into, by the end of Boyhood, an 18-year-old. He is just an awful adult actor. God bless him, for trying to, get it. I thought after Boyhood he had said he was kind of done acting, but maybe it should have stayed that way. He seems like a very nice person, but his acting is so wooden and hollow in this movie. Even Bill Paxton is not that good, and come on, like, it's Bill Paxton. He's good in everything. Even a stupid movie like Twister, he gives it his all. Even him in this movie is not that good. But really, the problems with this movie go far beyond the acting. Just every possible avenue that could have been interesting that this movie, could have gone down, it doesn't. It just doesn't do it. And the ending is so, like, abrupt that it could have gone on, the person I saw it with said this exact thing, that, like, it could have gone on another, half hour, 40 minutes, based on what they were sort of, exploring next, and it just, like, ends. I don't think the John Boyega character is used to his ability, but all throughout this movie, there's definitely, like, interesting things happening, and, like, ideas that could flourish into something. They usually don't, like I said, but they could. So there's definitely, like, seeds of good ideas throughout this movie. Hanks is fine, as he always is. He, at least he's not doing a funny accent like some of these other people. I can't say that they're trying to do funny accents. They're just doing dialects that don't work. And the other thing is, when she's got, like, the 24-hour camera, she has, like, this little thing on her lapel, or where a lapel would be, I guess. And we see, stuff popping up all over the screen, live responses or live tweets, you could say, I guess, from people watching her show. And it's like, it's sort of amusing. They throw some funny ones up there, but it's like, you can't possibly read it all. Half of them are in a different language because she's going all over the world. So it's like, there again, interesting motif. But then they do things like where she's in a serious boardroom meeting, and I think that they let the camera run because she's 24/7 on with the camera, but, like, they don't show any of that as being live, even though I think it was. And, like, you're really going to let her go to your board meeting and reveal all these, like, secrets of the company on the live feed? It's like, it just didn't make any sense. It had some good ideas, and just, like, none of them were executed. So, I didn't hate the movie, but it's certainly, I can't recommend it for sure. So I give The Circle a C-. So there you go. Nothing too exciting this time around. Nothing, blew me away. Nothing super horrible. I would certainly recommend Against the Circle. The other ones, I guess, are all worth at least a watch. Ghost in the Shell is pretty niche, but, Going in Style, Zookeeper's, these are good enough movies that I can slightly recommend them. But yeah, so that is the April 2017 wrap-up. There's a bunch of videos coming. We've got the summer movie season has already started. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 doing very well in theaters, and there's a video up for reviewing that right now you can check out. And coming up, we'll have Alien Covenant reviews. I'll probably do one for Snatched with Amy Schumer. I would like to, as the channel progresses, now that I've got my camera up and running and kind of cranking these out a little more often, I'd like to do a show every week with the new movies. Maybe not all of them, but some of them, so that when we do the monthly wrap up, I only throw you out maybe 2 or 3 movies we didn't cover throughout the month. So look for more of the standalone reviews for movies. Also, Riverdale episode reviews. X-Files episode reviews. That's based on you guys from the poll that I put up on the Facebook group, Dan Reviews It, which if you have not joined up on there, go ahead and you can check out the links to all the videos and all that stuff. What else? Yeah, so definitely be doing some standalone reviews of that, and like I said, some TV stuff as well. X-Files and Riverdale coming up. Maybe Buffy as well. That got a lot of votes so far too. On that poll, so maybe we'll take a look at Buffy for the 20th anniversary here. But that's it. Thanks so much for watching, and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and check out the Twitter feed too, which is at Film Fanatics Pod. So we'll see you next time. Bye.